thank you for coming. It's a real pleasure to be here and represent Moloco in Berlin, which is something that feels very alien to me, as some of you might know. And I'll go into that in a second. But today we're talking about leveraging contextual data for performance advertising. And the reason why that's important is obviously we're moving into a privacy-first world. And before we do that, I'll start my timer so that I don't go over time. And I'll introduce Moloco briefly, because for those of you who don't know Moloco, we are a machine learning company that is driving digital and performance growth for advertisers using first-party data. And for those of you who do know us, you probably know us in the context of the performance mobile DSP. And there we've been extremely successful on the gaming side, in particular in EMEA, also beyond gaming in other regions. And we're really excited to continue to build on this success in the coming years here. And a few stats about Moloco. I just learned today that we doubled in the last 12 months. More than 400 people, now I think close to 450, 60% of which are engineering, and more interestingly, 75 plus are in the machine learning sphere, so either engineers or data scientists working exclusively on building our machine learning models and improving those. So extremely tech R&D focused company, and you can see that compared to other ad tech peers, we're spending about 2x the amount in that area. Cool. And just briefly about me, I've been in this space for now a bit over 11 years. Started at a company that was called SponsorPaid. It now is called Fiverr and part of Digital Turbine, where they were just building up the mobile ad tech business. And I was responsible for the demand side in EMEA. In that context, I met Oren, the CEO of AppsFlyer, and I opened the Berlin office here for AppsFlyer about 7 years ago, was responsible for go-to-market in this region, and now I'm doing the same at Moloco, where we currently have an office in London, and we have a few people in the room that are here, wonderful people. I encourage you to meet them, and we're obviously looking to continue to grow with you. Let me talk to you a bit about why, just a brief refresher of why this is relevant and why we need to even consider contextual data. It's probably a good idea in any case, as you will see further down the line, but just as a brief refresher, back in June 2020, Apple announced something that was really shook the industry. It was the announcement of the ATT enforcement. App Tracking Transparency Framework, probably everyone knows. Early last year in April, it was actually with iOS 14.5 it was released. And in September of last year, we saw SKAN, so SK Ad Network, push out first signals to advertisers, and the question is, it's questionable how much sense advertisers could make with that data, And as we can see here, apparently not enough sense, because a lot of the budgets shifted from iOS to Android. And if you look at some of this Lotomy data where huge ad platforms actually were bleeding, a lot of value was just taken out of this market. Some shifted and some just disappeared. Eric Seufert yesterday posted an article which actually goes into this, where we just see the value just evaporating. And unfortunately, as we hoped it to be beneficial for the consumers, what we're actually seeing is an increase in ads and an increase in irrelevant ads. We actually, or I must say, I'm optimistic about the future, that it will be something good for the consumers, and we're all here in this room consumers, and we want our data to be protected. So I'm fully bought into that concept. And also what I think it will spur is innovation, and companies that are actually investing in technology that is enabling a privacy-first world that goes hand in hand with performance will do really well. Now, what are the approaches that people, what are the options that currently available? One, as we just spoke about, budgets were shifting. This is something that I guess is part and parcel of mobile marketeers' job in any case, to find media sources that are working. So the good news is it doesn't require tooling, and it's something that mobile marketers are used to. I would sum it up as the con is it doesn't address the underlying issue, right? It doesn't solve for the problem of measurement and performance. Now, when we look at the second approach, here we have unified IDs, such as the Trade Desk that released one. You have data clean rooms, private exchanges, deals, and marketplaces. Pros, it can be really effective in specific use cases. So you have AppsFlyer has a data clean room, which is good for a specific use case. Yesterday was an eventful day. AWS also announced a data clean room that they're releasing. It will be relevant for a specific use case. The con is that it's costly, it's adding additional technology, you need to learn it and you need to buy it, and then it's limited, potentially, in its application. The third approach is leveraging first-party and contextual data, which is what we're talking about today. And like everything in life, also here, pros and cons. What works well is that it's scalable across the entire ecosystem, and it's truly privacy first, because by definition, contextual data excludes PII, personal identifiable information, and which is obviously at the core of the issue that we're trying to solve for. And there's additional benefits of creating unique value. So if you're a publisher and you are monetizing with ads, there is additional value that can be created if you generate this contextual data, make it available to buyers. The cons, really hard to standardize the data. It's unclear what the value is in specific pieces of that data, and it's just technically very difficult to do. That is kind of currently how we see the world. Those are the three approaches. I don't think it's an either or. It's not, you can, I think it makes sense and they all are justified, and you should be given that this world is uncertain, like a multi-pronged strategy and different approaches are viable and should be taken here. Now, I was speaking about contextual data. The question is, what does it actually mean? So the IAB, do I have a laser pointer? Oh, funny. Yeah, nice. The IAB categorizes and uses this type of taxonomy. When we look at that, we think of it in three broad categories. One is the demographic data, where we talk about things like age and gender. The other one is interest, and that is the broadest category. Here we're thinking about what type of content are you, in what kind of content context are you engaging with the ads? And lastly, it's the purchase or action intent. That's the third, which I believe is self-explanatory. You're showing clear signs that you're in the market to buy. Okay. Now, actually, before I go there, what we wanted to do is run an experiment and see how contextual data can be used to improve performance, right? So that's where we're at, and I'm going to run you through the experiments that we did, show you our assumptions and the results. And before I do that, I think it's important for you for us to go a little bit deeper into what Moloco is. So at the core, we have a deep learning neural network that sits in our machine learning platform, and it's being fed by 40 billion daily requests. And when we talk about contextual data, there's already device type of day, and this type of data that we are already operating with and processing in order to make predictions. The additional data that we are talking about is down here, so action intent, demographic, and keywords that we were speaking about. And the question is, how can we, given that we have so much data already, how much value does that add? And before I go into it, the deep neural network is basically a layered approach where each layer adds depth of learning and allows you to be more sophisticated. And in this example, so we have a base machine learning model, and then on top of that, what we've done is added a tuning parameter that allows you, or allows the model to adjust the bids slightly, accounting for the additional signals that we get from the contextual data, which then leads to the final prediction. So adding basically an additional layer of learning. And this is the experiment that I was referring to. So what we did was we took 12 campaigns and we ran them on both models, the baseline model and then the one that adds the contextual data. Bless you. And we ran, those campaigns were either with click or install optimization based. And the goal was click per dollar or install per dollar results. 5K budget, 4 to 6 weeks, contextual first party data that include demographic, interest, action intent from 2 sources. Okay. No? Yes? Okay. So I mentioned this, so I'm going to skip it. 40 billion. So we have a lot of data already. So it's really questionable, does that add so much, just adding those additional signals? We weren't sure, and when we approached this, we thought it would be somewhere between 0, flat line, versus a single digit increase, and we thought that the increase would only be happening on the click optimized campaigns. Now, the results were very different. Surprise, surprise. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be talking about it here. So, as a bare minimum, we saw an 8% increase in the performance, and it went up to 53%. And in the interest of transparency, and I think we pride ourselves in our values, and transparency is really one of them. The higher two-digit performance increases were seen, particularly on the click optimizing campaigns. All right. So, in itself, really impressive results. But the question is, what do we do next? And I think what we want to do is take this into the world that we might be potentially heading. So into a world where there's a lack of identifiers. So we're going to test it on limited LAT traffic, so limited ad tracking traffic. We're also going to go further and deeper into leveraging the IAB audience and content taxonomies, and using, and this is where the value add is if you're a publisher, I think seller-defined audiences, and try and standardize them and use them in order to train our machine learning platform. And then lastly, we'll also develop vertical-specific machine learning models where the other forms of information and data points are just simply not available. And I think that brings me to an end. I spoke much faster than I usually do. But I really, what I would love, if anyone is interested, because we're looking to partner and to experiment further. So if there's people in the room that want to learn more, want to experiment, get in touch. And we're here to learn and grow together. And I think these are exciting times. And I just want to say that we're pretty confident about our ability to really add outsized performance for anyone who's willing to grow in this space. And I'm grateful for everyone that you were here. Thank you so much.